What is going on, everybody? It's Jackson and Andrew from Dinger Dudes, and today we are joined by MLB veteran Jay Jackson. Jay, how's your summer going? And thank you so much for taking time to join.
No, I appreciate it. Summer's going well, besides uh getting released for the Twins earlier this past month or whatever, but it was a good thing, honestly. I was kind of injured and stuff, so I got a couple PRPs and I get to rehab and spend time with the family for a little bit and see what happens.
Well, that's good. Well, me personally, I'm a Cardinals fan, and we need some relievers. So, if any of the Cardinals organization is, we got Jay Jackson here. We need him.
Yeah, I can't wait to get healthy and just see what I have left. I'm trying to pitch one more year. Hopefully, we'll see. Get year 18 under the belt and, see what happens.
Well, Jay, since Jackson's going to promote his Cardinals team, you were once with the Braves for a little
I
bit. So
was.
if you ever want to come back, I mean, hey, man, I'd love to
Oh,
see you back in the A, man. Come on in.
Yeah, hey, the boys down there. That's close to home. I'm from Greenville, so that's
There you
actually
go.
so.
That's
I
one
was a
more
Braves
reason to
fan.
come back.
come on, man.
I was a
Come
Braves
on,
fan
man.
growing up, man. I mean, for the Cardinals, I mean, the Cardinals were my rivals when I got drafted. I got drafted by the
Oh,
Cubs, so they were the
oh.
rivals. Everywhere we went, it was always you got to face the Cardinals everywhere. So you faced every
Well,
single one of the guys coming like through the minors. It was awesome, man.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was actually going to be my first question. You were drafted to the Cubs in 2008 in the ninth round. As a young guy in the clubhouse, I wanted to know, did you receive any sort of advice from the older guys? And what was it like when you finally reached the majors in 2015?
I mean, as I moved like through the organization, I would say I wasn't as young as I probably was in most places because I went to school for 3 years before I got drafted. So I was a junior coming. I was a young junior. I think I was still 20 when I got drafted, but I wasn't really young until I got to I think high A, and that was in Daytona Beach. And I had some older guys with me, but most of those guys had played in college baseball too. So we were all like had similar experiences and everything, right? So I was never really the young guy till I got to AAA, and at that point, it was just shut up and watch and listen. Pretty much, don't really like say too much. Like if they talk to you, then like you just answer the questions. I think, and it just I think the best advice I probably got was just play my game, like believe in myself. Cause I would see them and, they go up and down, like struggle and stuff like that. And I'd be like, yo, like I never want to be like that, but you always do. But like the one thing is like, I saw some of the older guys that were there and how like they had been playing for a while and they're like, yeah, I mean, it's still fun. So we're not going to give up. And I was like, if I just do what I'm supposed to do and like have fun and play my game, like then whatever happens, happens. I can live with it. But I've been playing for 17 years now, so I guess it's worked a little bit. And as far as getting called up, the story was terrible. That like I got called up while like we weren't playing and the season was over. So I literally thought the season was over, and I was just hanging out in El Paso and got the phone call. But getting to the field the next day and being on the field and being there, that was one of the most nerve wracking experiences I've had to say in my life.
Mhm.
It was fun, but it was nerve wracking for sure. It was everything you could imagine it to be. And then I went in the game and gave up like 2 or 3 runs, and then I was like, oh well, reality hit sets in a little bit. uh, but it was amazing. I was like I said, I was nervous wreck, but luckily got out of it. Ended up having a lot more years after it, and just learned how to play baseball and enjoy every moment out there from it.
That's great to
Well,
hear.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'll just go ahead and jump right to my next question because, while Jackson asked you about some of the older guys that you talked to during your tenure throughout, many different major league teams, you were granted the privilege to play alongside some notable pitchers like Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff with the Brewers in 2019. You had Logan Webb and Jose Alvarez with the Giants in 21. So, who are like some of your personal favorite pitchers that you've worked alongside, and how would you say those pitchers kind of impacted your personal success on the mound?
I would say like all the guys, like most of the guys you named were all like starters. So like you got to watch them
Mhm.
work, but they always like kind of do their own thing, right? Starters are their own special category half the time, except for Jose. Jose was down in the bullpen with us, and having
Right.
Jose out there was definitely fun. But as far as like bullpen guys, working with those guys, just seeing how each guy works, seeing how we complement each other, but at the same time, seeing guys that are similar to one another, like how our pitch shapes and stuff are, how they attack guys. When I was with the Blue Jays last year, I got to work with Jordan Romano and see how he pitched, and my stuff wasn't as high octane as his, but seeing the depth on his slider and how he worked and how he moves pitches. Chad Green, the same thing. The year before, I was with Rosell Iglesias and those guys with the Braves,
Yep.
and seeing them work and seeing Matzik and Dylan Lee and all those guys, and just we all try to make each other better because it's a competition. Who's going to come out there and get the job done? Like that's all you're trying to do to win the game. And then it's a competition within the competition of the bullpen because you're like, okay, like I want to be better than my teammate to help us win more because I get to stay up here longer. It's not like a harsh competition. It's more of a brother on brother competition where it's like I want to see you get better, but I want to be better than you still. Because at the end of the day, like if I'm better than the next person, I get paid more too, right? So
Right. Well, I mean, I guess I could say, I didn't play baseball growing up. I actually played soccer, but me and my twin brother played soccer together. And I always had the same thing. I was like, I'm going to do whatever I can to get you better, but you're not going to be better than me.
exactly.
That kind of thing.
Well,
That's awesome.
I know you talked about playing with all these different organizations, but after you played with your first part of your career in the minors, you ended up going to Japan, where you posted a 2.8 record, which that is very, very impressive. I can't do that in MLB The Show regardless, like the video game alone. But you also posted a 2.16 ERA between the two stints. Can you tell me about your experience playing in Japan, especially with you also played during COVID, is that correct?
Yeah, I played a little bit during COVID. It was fun. That was one of my most exciting times in my life for sure. I won 3 league championships over there, so that was like the highlight for sure. Being over there, we got to go back to back to back when I was with the cart, and just the fans over there and the love they showed me and stuff like that. But just pitching over there was just so much fun. I would say like I had good years for sure, and I got to be on playoff teams. That was the main thing for me. Is I got an opportunity to be on playoff teams and help teams win and help teams go to the playoffs and help teams almost win World Series. So, I went to the Japan series 2 out of 3 years. The first year I was over there, we ended up losing the Shohei in the Nippon Ham Fighters in
Oh, man.
2016. So that was fun, but it was an adventure and it was an experience. Just like I went to Mexico and I went to Venezuela, but just going to Japan was just on a much larger scale where you're getting paid more, but it's still playing baseball at the end of the day, right? But it was a lot of fun. Like I wouldn't change it for a world. I tell all the guys all the time that if they have a chance to go over there, for sure go over there and go over there and play well and just play baseball and see what happens.
So this isn't my next question, but I do want to ask now that you brought that up. When you played against Otani back in that 2016, I think is what you said, did you ever look at him and be like, man, this guy's going to be in the majors one day? Like, did you ever see that from him?
No, we all knew he was because he went to the majors the next year because that was his first year at the
Okay.
majors was
Yeah.
2017. So like, we all knew he was going, and it was nice to play against him and see like, okay, how good can he be type of thing. Like I saw him and people were it was funny because the following off season I was training with some guys that down at the Florida baseball ranch. They changed the name of it now. I think it's called the Florida Armory. But I was training down there and they were talking about Otani and talking about like, okay, do you think he's gonna hit well? Do you think he's gonna pitch here? Blah blah blah. And like literally everything, like all the scouting reports I had on him that I told them that like I thought personally, not that the team had, that like I personally thought about him. Like
Right.
that all ended up coming true. Like so it was kind of funny. I was like, all right, yeah, I am pretty good at baseball then. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just like because like everybody was wondering his first year that he came over here was everybody's like, oh, he's got too high of a leg kick. Is it gonna work? Because it worked during spring training but it didn't work during the season at first. Before he even came over here, I was like, "There's no way that leg kick works over here." I was like, "It'll work during spring training when like guys
Uh,
don't know him." But I was like, when he gets to like guys actually like that are facing him and tough lefties and things like that, he's not going to be able to have a leg kick. He's going to have to put his foot down and time it. And I was like, he's going to get stronger. So I was like, he's not going to have to do much. Like you look at it now, some of the balls that he hits, like he barely touches a baseball and it goes 450 feet. Like it's
oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Like he'll like just literally ass out a ball and you'll be like, okay, that's a pop up. Nope, it's a home run. You're like, oh, all right,
Yeah.
well, it is what it is. So I saw it and I appreciated it from afar for sure. It was a great thing to see.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
did want to
yeah,
ask, Andrew, can I ask a very quick question?
yeah. Go for it, Jackson.
I did want to ask this last interview with Ian Miller, but since you played in Japan, what were the pre-game and post-game meals like? Because I want to know what the food
Okay.
was like in Japan.
Post game, we we had with the carp, we had meal money pretty much, like kind of like we do over here. So we would go eat whatever we wanted to, but the team had a team dinner as well at the hotel, and it would just be like a traditional Japanese meal, like some type of fish, some like beef, and like some rice and everything like that.
Okay.
Pre-game meals were like rice balls with like every day was ramen or udon or some type of noodle. When it was cold outside, it would be warm, and then when it was warmer outside, we would have the cold version. So it was always something like that. And then you'd have like some days like chicken wings or like another type of like protein, like they'll have like beef some days or like yakitori or whatever else. It would just vary. It was nice. It was definitely nice food. Like we had definitely good meals. It just got repetitive over a period of time, but it was
Yeah.
definitely good.
I mean, as college students, we live off that. So
Ramen,
we
yeah.
I
understand.
know. I've been there. Trust me, I've been there.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I guess I'll trail that back to baseball just a little bit. So, going back to the Braves, despite the fact that you only appeared in 2 games with Atlanta, throwing a combined 1.1 shutout frames, it's funny because I can still remember your appearance against the Colorado Rockies in late August. And because that was after the Braves DFA Tuki Toussaint. So even though you spent limited time there, what was the experience like being in Atlanta? And what takeaways did you leave with that maybe perhaps benefited you during the rest of your career?
I mean, Atlanta was just an opportunity just to see how an organization works. Like you said, I didn't get much time, and Tuki's one of my good friends, and me and Tuki were actually, talking about that before, like he got DFA. We were actually talking about like what because we didn't know what was going to happen at the same
Mhm.
time. So, Tuki's a great dude, but um, it just gave me another insight of another organization and how they work and just their process and seeing the team that's coming off of World Series and see how they work and see how the guys mesh together and see the guys play and just take in everything. Like you said, I didn't have a lot of time. I was up and down, and I spent some time in the bullpen up there and not pitching for a bit, but then I got a couple innings in. Whatever, it is what it is. But it was just like I said, mainly getting to see the ins and outs, seeing how different guys work, seeing how a championship organization builds their players up, how they go about their business, and that was nice. Like it helped me just learn what I can do to help make other people better throughout my process of my career, and how I can help these young guys as they come up because it's new, younger language, and see how it flows, and see how I can possibly help them become better baseball players and transition that into like better averages and better pitches or whatever else it might be.
Right. Awesome. Awesome.
Now,
Well, Jackson, you
speaking
good. Oh, sorry, Jackson, good.
Oh, I was gonna say, now speaking about your time coming back to the States, I want to specifically talk about your time in Toronto, where you posted an amazing 3.12 ERA and a 3-1 record that helped me win a fantasy baseball championship. I mean that's not the point. I mean, help the Blue Jays to a playoff berth. That's what I meant to say. But
Blue
can you
Jay
describe
Jackson.
can you describe the feeling of the 2023 Blue Jay season?
I mean, that season was crazy because I mean, I was back and forth every off day, seeing my son in Salt Lake City because he was in the infant ICU for most of that time. So it was just one of those years where it was a blur, but it was like just focusing on work pretty much because of everything that was going on off the field for the most part. So it was an incredible year. I was healthy, or I didn't pay attention to all the injuries that I probably did have because there's something bigger going on.
Hmm.
But I got to pitch and I got to pitch in some good situations. The Blue Jays put me in a lot of great situations. I mean, that organization, the fan base, they are amazing. I still say they're probably one of my favorites for sure because it's just how much, attention and love and, care that they showed me and my family while we were there. So it was one of those years that you just dream of having because you don't get a lot of those. Some guys do because they're just gifted with it and they can do that. But to have one of those type of years later in my career, it was unbelievable because I mean I had plenty of them before my career. I mean I had great numbers in Japan, I had great numbers in Mexico. So to have a year like that in the big leagues to show that I'm capable of doing that was just unbelievable.
And I'm really glad that you touched on that situation because one of the many incredible aspects of athletes that I admire more than anything is when there is a chip on their shoulder because 9 times out of 10, it's gonna leave a positive translation onto the sport that they love. And what many people don't recognize is that you had one of those inspiring stories. So I'm glad that you brought it up. So, because like Jackson mentioned, you thrived with a 1.64 ERA for the Blue Jays while navigating that emotional challenge of your premature son's stay in the ICU. And you had to balance your family's needs with your professional responsibilities. So, I just want you to dive a little bit more. How did your ability to compartmentalize your personal challenges, such as your newborn son's premature birth, how did that contribute to your outstanding 1.64 ERA with the Blue Jays during that difficult period?
It was just I knew everything was handled at home. I trusted, the medical professionals as much as I could. I trusted my fiance. I trusted my family, and trusted God mainly. Just because, I mean, I knew. I mean, He's brought me as far as He has. I mean, and He allowed our son to be born, regardless of all that could have happened. He was still born, and they were doing everything to save him, and he was still alive. So as long as he was alive and kicking, I was like, I'm gonna do the best I can to make sure that when he gets old enough, he'll see that, daddy went out there and tried to do the best he could because, he was fighting as much as he could and I was fighting as much as I could out there to show him that, great things can happen. And it was just, you know, I don't know what it was. It was a blessing to be able to do those things, but it was just that time. It was my time of year. It was just one of those moments that you never forget that you just take all your energy and put it into one thing and then you see what happens. And then after the games, you just wait to hear what's the new verdict. But while I'm playing, like it's just like, okay, this is it. Like this is where I have nothing else to worry about but this. And then after everything else I can take care of because I have to focus on making sure everything's okay out here to make sure that everything's okay for everybody else too. So it just worked out, I guess.
Well, we're certainly glad that everything panned out
Mhm.
okay for you and your son, of course. So, yeah, thank you for sharing
Appreciate it.
that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And for my final question, I wanted to ask a question that's sort of away from baseball. Can you tell us and the viewers the motivation and purpose behind Team Jacksland?
The motivation is just it started in Japan and it became just like a clothing line just to like for me I was like I'd rather spend money on things that I find like cool and like happy and things that I can make myself than like spending 50, 70, like $100 on a t-shirt like from like Louis Vuitton or something,
It's like
right?
55. It's like 60.
Right,
Crazy.
like but you know what I mean. So and I can
Yeah.
create things and then other people might think they're cool and if they do then some of the profits go to other charities as well. So that's kind of cool for me to be able to like, make things and then have other people like it or comment on it when I'm walking down the street, like, hey, where'd you get that? I'm like, oh, well, it's actually my clothing line. And the motto of it is "In Smiles We Trust." So it's just something to make people happy too. It's just like, hey, it's a happy clothing line. It's smiles and it's Smiley J. It's just everything that we just tried to just have fun with it, just have another creative look and an outlet for just everything that could be going on, like just another positive thing to do instead of going out here and doing something stupid and negative, right?
Right.
That's awesome to
Well,
hear. That's really cool.
yeah, for sure, man. And and I always for my finishing question, I mean, we pretty much love to ask everybody we interview this question because we interview, a handful of athletes already, and they've all,
Mhm.
everyone has different experiences in the majors. So they've all been able to tell us like some crazy story that may have happened to them or just this moment that they really enjoyed. So aside from the things we already touched on, is there like a specific moment in your career that you'll just never forget? Like just anything?
um I think the craziest thing that I've ever done in my career was when I pulled my hamstring. It wasn't in a game. I pulled my hamstring like running before practice. I mean, before spring training game, and then I pitched in the spring training game that afternoon. So I pitched with like a torn
Ooh.
hamstring, and I made it worse because I pitched that afternoon. So that's probably the craziest thing I've seen or done. I've done. Craziest thing I've ever seen was when I was younger. I saw a guy literally like snap his foot. I think that was the craziest thing I saw. Like he slid into third base, and he
Ooh.
slid way
Oh.
too late, and just like snapped it and like was just hanging off the bench. So those are the craziest things I've seen.
I tell you, dude, something about base running just scares me, dude. I saw, man, I'm blanking on who it was. I feel like it was somebody from the Phillies. I may have to check my sources, but I remember seeing somebody slide into second with their hands out, and then their finger get caught in between
Yeah,
the corner of the
yeah,
base. And oh, I
correct.
remember
Yeah,
when they showed the slow motion replay of that. Oh, I
Oh,
gagged.
it was awful.
It was bad. It was really bad. So yeah, man. Yeah,
it
it's
happens
a
from
brutal
time to
sport
time.
sometimes, man. It is a
It
brutal
can
sport.
be, yeah, definitely can be. But it's what we signed up for. It's fun.
That's
It's what
right.
we love
That's
to
right.
do.
Well, that is great to hear. Again, Jay, thank you so much for taking time to join our podcast. This is one of the most exciting interviews we've done.
Oh
And
yeah.
would you like to shout out anything where they can find you, like your websites or anything before
Oh
we
yeah,
end?
for sure. For sure. So everybody can find me on Instagram at Jaxland58, JAXLAND 58 on Instagram, Twitter. You can look at the websites in my podcast with me and my boy Trayvon Robinson, the Brushback podcast, and that's its own like whole little thing too. But go check that
Okay.
out. And I think I just have a website up for my marketing team that I think it might be therealjjackson.com possibly. I'm not sure. But also, like they said before, go check out Team Jacksland and go. There's going to be some new merch coming out soon. I can actually officially say that. I was
Okay.
just working on
Okay.
it
Ooh, we
this
gotta check
past
that out.
week. It should be out in the next probably 2 weeks. There's going to be some new shirts and some new stuff with the Smiley J logo coming out soon. So looking forward to that. So teamjacksland.com. And just tap in. Like if anybody ever needs me for anything, I'm always here just hanging out, working out, and just trying to help the world be a better place, a more happy, smiley, positive place.
Awesome, man. And just so y'all guys know, we will put the links to these websites if you guys want to cop any of the merch, because I might have to do it
I,
myself. I'm
I
not
I
gonna
might
lie,
have
man.
to as well. I've been looking at it on Instagram.
So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
we're
drop the
gonna
links in the
the
description so you guys
Instagram
won't have any.
page
Yeah.
is like so old, so the new merch is not going to be on Instagram. The Instagram page, if you want merch, you have to go to the website and see because the Instagram page is lying to a lot of people. That's probably why I haven't
Okay.
got a lot of traction. But if you go to the website has all the new and like cool, like more creative stuff on it. So like for sure.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, again, Jay, thank you so much. And this interview will be out in like a couple hours, probably,
Yeah.
most likely.
Oh,
But Jay, thank you again.
oh, thank you guys. I appreciate it.